This is Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles from Safe Harbor Retirement Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Cory provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles.
Welcome back to another episode of Financially Fit Radio. I'm Cory Sickles with Safe Harbor Retirement Group and Wealth Advisors. If you'd like any information that we discussed today, just feel free to give us a call at 614-760-0670, or you can always visit us online at safeharboroh.com. When you're on our website, feel free to click on that radio page, and then you can check out some previous shows. You can also subscribe to our Financially Fit Radio by subscribing to us on Google Podcast, Amazon or Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, or Spotify. And also feel free to check out our YouTube page. You can watch today's show. You can watch previous shows. You can also subscribe to our channel. Again, just type in Safe Harbor Retirement Group. And then, again, we put about 3 or 4 or 5 shorts out a week on different types of financial topics. So it's a good way to just become educated on those type of topics. Again, just give us a call anytime that you want at 614-760-0670 or visit our website at safeharboroh.com. Well, today we're going to talk about something I believe is very crucial, and that's being able to keep up with your beneficiaries. Everybody, everyone out there probably has a nice little retirement nest egg or an estate nest egg, and you want to make sure it goes the way that you want it to. And the best way to be able to do that is to keep up with your beneficiaries. We're going to talk about a few mistakes that people have made, and you only get one shot at it. Just like you get one shot at retirement, you really only get one shot at to make sure your estate's set up the correct way too. So I think it's something that will be good to talk about today. But before we dive into that, let me introduce to you my co-host this week and every week, and that's Tony Shore. Tony, how are you today?
Great. Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on the show, Cory. I've had a great week. I do want to say I finally got the keys wrestled away from my dad so he doesn't drive. So I just want to let everyone out there listening know that if they're in Minnesota driving on Highway 59 between Fulda and Worthington, it's now safe.
That is good. And Tony, that could be pretty rough to take keys away from a parent.
Well, and yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to forcibly remove them, but he was, still driving after he shouldn't have been driving. And now we've gotten that taken care of. And my dad's great. He's still getting around. My mom and dad are considering their health issues, are doing good. And I got a chance to see them this past weekend. My dad turned 81 on August 25th. So we celebrated his birthday. That was a lot of fun. How about you, Cory? What have you been doing?
The last couple of weeks I've been traveling. I went down to a conference there in Nashville with some of the other Gradient people down there, and got to speak to some advisors on showing them kind of like what we do here at Safe Harbor. And then I attended just a university on everyone's favorite topic, and that's life insurance. Right? Everyone loves the life insurance salesman.
Yeah, you suffered through a seminar on life insurance or a conference on life insurance. I know that you and a lot of top advisors were there, got together and talked about that. But it is crucial because a lot of people out there are underinsured or even some are overinsured. It is. So I know you like to help your clients and learn what's best because they've made a lot of improvements to some of those policies over the years, haven't they?
They have. I mean, it's not just about life insurance or death benefit anymore. It might be about, strategizing to be able to build, some cash for tax-free retirement. With a lot of the policies today, you can get some long-term care coverage as well. Yeah. So you kind of, it's a hybrid out there where it's depending on how you want to utilize it. It can be a huge benefit to you. And
sure,
just like anything else, no one wants to go out and get homeowners insurance. No one wants to be able to go out and get different types of insurance. But I think there's a lot of good reasons why you need it because it's more than just the death benefit. Again, there's a way for you to be able to get the biggest part is, depending if you do it the right way, is to get some tax-free income in retirement because we talk about it all the time, Tony, and that is taxes are probably going to go up.
Yeah. Yeah, and it could be a good way to leave something for your family, too, after you're gone. You want to make sure they're taken care of. So, again, making sure your future is buttoned up and taken care of and planning ahead is what we're talking about today, right? With
Sure.
beneficiary designations. And you're talking about, the question is, why are beneficiaries so crucial for our listeners out there? And I know you have a number of points that will tell us why.
Yeah, before we kind of get into all the points, Tony, let me just kind of just talk in general about it, right?
Okay.
I think what a lot of people always think is, you know what, I got a will or a trust, so I'm covered, right?
Yeah.
But all your financial documents or financial accounts, not documents, all your financial accounts, most of them you can put a beneficiary on, so it doesn't matter what you have in your will or trust. And that's what people need. That's the number one mistake I see people make is they go, oh, I got that covered in my will or trust. And if the trust is not the beneficiary, right? And it's just, and if you think you just have the will and you have the estate, the estate of, Cory Sickles as the beneficiary, for example, that money's going to go through probate, and who knows where he's going to end up ultimately getting it. So one of the things that we always we handle all the financial aspects of it for our clients. So, your IRA accounts that you have with us, your Roth accounts, your brokerage accounts, if you have life insurance, joint accounts, we handle all that. So there's usually three areas that I see people make mistakes in outside of the financial, the financial accounts. And that is basically your home, your house that you own, bank accounts, and your vehicles. And you can avoid probate for all those things if you have them set up the right way. And we can show you how you add a beneficiary to those accounts. So the whole point of it is don't rely on just your will or trust. There might be other things that you have to do to make sure that your assets avoid probate. And really, that's what we're here to, help. And, I kind of, preparing for the show today, I just kind of went in and said, you know what, there's got to be celebrity mistakes that people have made. We all know celebrities, right?
Oh, yeah.
So Jimi Hendrix, for example, before we kind of dive into that, he never had a will. Everything went to his dad. He had a brother that he's really close friends with. When his father died, he had an estate value from Jimi Hendrix valued over $80 million. And he actually remarried and gave all the money to his wife and to his stepdaughter, actually didn't even give anything to Jimmy's brother. So if Jimmy just would have had a will or a trust put in place, and my whole point of it is his brother could have got something, right? Yeah. Warren Burger, he was actually a Supreme Justice.
Yeah.
Right? He did it himself. He's not an estate planning attorney. And things didn't go the way that he actually wanted to. He had about a $2 million estate, paid over $450,000 in additional taxes because he didn't actually set it up the right way.
Yeah.
I really didn't know this one either, but Princess Di, she actually had letter of wishes to give away her belongings. She really didn't have, she left a detailed will, but by the time everyone got it, there was just so much fees that they're going through the attorneys. It didn't actually go the right way. I don't know if you remember Heath Ledger. He died a few years ago, right? He didn't update his documents. He actually got married, had a child, but everything went to his mother and father. He didn't actually update it. So you have Marlon Brando who made oral promises, and Flojo, Florence Griffith Joyner, right?
Yeah.
She actually they couldn't find her original documents. So a lot of stuff had to go through probate there as well. Elvis Presley didn't plan right. You're in Minnesota. My God, they're still dealing with Prince.
Yeah, Prince's estate is still being fought over.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the whole point of it is, because, we never know the day that we're going to pass.
Right.
We never
Nobody
do.
knows the day.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can tell you this just from experience. The best time to do it is today when you're healthy.
Yeah.
Right. The last thing you want to be doing is when you only have maybe a month to live and it, is to be able to finalize all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
You're not going to want to do it because now it's the finality of it. So do it now. Make sure you, at the end of the day, the one reason why you do all this stuff, or what the reason why you grew your estate as well, it's being able to make sure that your wishes are going to be honored, right?
Right.
We want to make sure it goes to where our stuff. We want our stuff to go to where we want it to go. We don't want it to rely on someone else, like a court or a guardian, or you don't want to have any disputes. If you want to make sure you give it to your children, do that. If you're a blended family and you treat your stepchildren as your children, then it needs to be able to state that, or you have to actually put that down on the beneficiary form that it's going to go 4 ways. If that's the way that you want it to be able to go. So that's the real reason why you want to be able to do it. You worked your life hard. You had a hard life. You've developed these assets. So you want to do it the right way. And we'll talk about this, but you might also have to do it the most tax efficient way as well.
Well, yeah, taxes always come into play. I knew you were going to bring up taxes, but you're right. You want to make sure things are set up in a way that won't leave a tax burden for you or your loved ones or any of your family members. But a lot of this can be solved starting with the beneficiary designations. That's where you have to start, isn't it?
It is. And, so obviously when we start talking about that, Tony, so if you say you have an IRA or some type of brokerage account, you're putting down your primary beneficiary. That's what we're talking about. That's going to override whatever's on the will and the trust. So you want to make sure that is correct. And the other part of it is and I'm going to use an example here, but let's just say I have 2 children and I want all my money to go to the 2 children. Well, step back. First of all, my primary is going to be my wife. And then after that, my contingent is going to be maybe my 2 kids, right? So in that particular case, if something happens to me, everything goes to my wife. But if something happens to both of us, now I have someone that's going to get that because we're no longer there. And that's where we're talking about a contingent, right? And the other side of that too is, Tony, is when we start talking about giving it to your bloodline, you want to make sure that you have most people want it what we call per Stirpes. And per Stirpes means bloodline. So all that means is, say I have 2 children and one of my children happened to pass, but they have kids, right? All that means is if I go per Stirpes, it's going to go, their 50% portion of that is going to go to their children. So I'm not going to disinherit my grandkids. Right. If you do it what we call per capita and you don't say per Stirpes on there, then 100% is going to go to the remaining child. Mm-hmm. Now you've actually disinherited your grandchildren. Uh-huh. So the importance of all this is, and I'm not expecting everyone listening to know what that actually means. That's why you actually come in and you work with an advisor, because we're going to ask you those questions and make sure the paperwork's filled out the correct way.
Yeah.
The point of it is we need to know how you want it distributed. We'll make sure the paperwork's filled out the correct way. Yeah. The other side of it is we can review what you currently have to make sure it's set up the way that you want to have it go as well.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up per Stirpes and per capita, because when my grandfather passed, he had 4 children, but one of his children had passed away, and that person had 2 children, but their parents had passed away, right?
Right.
So he divided up the farmland and the inheritance by 4, and he did it per Stirpes. So my dad and his brother and their sister, the older brother who had died, they didn't know. They thought, oh, now it's going to go 3 ways. No, it's per Stirpes. Jerry's share goes to his kids because
that's
Jerry
exactly
and his wife are no longer living. So it went to Jerry's children, and that's per Stirpes. And I think that's important. But when it comes to you're giving an example of your beneficiary designations, I know, Cory, you've always said I'm like a son to you. Right.
That's right.
I'm hoping that'll show up on your beneficiary, your contingent beneficiaries. Your kids might not like that much, but
like in my case, Tony and Melissa and I, we don't have kids.
Yeah.
Right. So ours is lined out. Most of our stuff goes to a trust, and within the trust, we're actually designating the beneficiary as the way to go.
Yeah.
Now, there's certain things might not want to put in a trust, and I don't want to get into all that, but that's why you work with an advisor to make sure it's going to go the way that you
And that's
want
why
to,
I'm
right?
reminding you that I'm like a son to you.
That's right. I remember that.
Just next time you update your beneficiary designations, Cory,
Right.
that's all I'm saying.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But you have a couple things there that you also talked about, going to certain ways. In many cases, a lot of people, they don't want to give all their money to their children, but maybe they want to give it to charities and things like that as well, right? So it's good to have a discussion at some time about maybe what type of money do I actually give to the charity, right? So if you have IRA money, that's a great way to be able to give that portion to a charity, because that charity's not going to pay, if they're licensed the correct way, they're not going to have to pay tax on that amount as well. So when you start developing a true estate plan, you need to make sure that you're giving the right money, the right type of money to the right type of organization or right type of entity or the right type of person. Right. Because if an IRA, for example, goes to you, Tony, right, you can inherit that IRA, but now you have to cash that out over a 10-year period. So, depending on how big of an IRA we're talking about, it's going to be added onto your income stream. Could put you in a different tax bracket. You're paying taxes on it. And again, you now have a limit where you have to take that out over a 10-year period.
Wow. Yeah. So inherited IRAs work differently. And so it helps to have communication with the people you're listing as beneficiaries and letting them know what to expect and making sure they're in on a part of it and that they've met your financial advisor. I imagine you have clients that bring their kids in or talk to you about their families, and make sure you always tell them to communicate these things with the family as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, they need to know who to call if something happens.
Yeah.
Or at least your trustee or executor needs to do that. So then, the advisor, or in my case, I might then schedule a meeting with all of the beneficiaries,
Sure.
whether it's in person, via Zoom, or wherever they're happen to be located. But it's important to be able to make sure that they understand what's going to take place. In some cases, it might take a little while to get some of the money to them, depending on the situation we're talking about.
Sure.
So you need to be able to set the expectations the correct way as well. I've seen so many times, Tony, where they go, you know what, I'm going to give all my money to one child, and they're going to distribute the money upon my death, right? And that's a nightmare, because that person doesn't have to do anything at that point in time.
Yeah.
And if you're leaving them IRA money, that means I'm going to be taxed on it, and not all so you need to have it set up exactly the way that you want to. And there might be some situations where, maybe you have, a child with disabilities, or a child that's on Medicaid. And now you have to get into some more detailed type of planning to make sure that they get the money, but they don't own the asset. And there's ways to be able to make all that stuff happen. So depending on who you're giving that money to, you might have to do certain situations. Or if you happen to pass, Tony, and your children are 5, you don't want a 5-year-old to be able to inherit this money. Now you get into guardianship and all this other type of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a document that I think everybody needs to understand, and then work with an advisor and an attorney to put a lot of these things in place. It's not as easy as they think. And I know a lot of people out there are saying, hey, nothing's going to happen to me, but I've seen it happen.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, Heath Ledger, Prince, a lot of people, especially if they pass younger, they are assuming, oh, I got plenty of time. Everybody always thinks you have plenty of time, no matter what their age. We all think we have plenty of time. And eventually we don't.
Yeah. You don't know that. And, another type of part of this is, hey, I'm a small business owner, right?
Right.
What happens if I pass away? I have employees that work here. What's that actually mean to them? So now what you're kind of getting into is succession planning too. If you're a small business owner out there, you need to make sure that, in my case, I want to make sure my wife's taken care of. but also I want to make sure, my staff's going to be taken care of. How's that going to go? And if you're actually if you're a co-owner of a company, then, what's going to end up happening to that other co-owner? They're going to buy you out. Are you leaving them in in an issue? And if you're worth more than $13 million, then now we're talking about estate taxes and things like that. And you have to be able to plan for all this type of stuff as well. So it's a lot more complicated than I think people realize when we start talking about all this. And at the end of the day, we don't expect you to know that. That's our job, is to make sure we understand where you are, what you want to do. And then obviously we have to actually put it in writing and make it all happen for you.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to take into account. Yeah, and especially small business owners, they have to have a succession plan and be thinking about that. And I know you can utilize insurance to make sure to protect your business interests if you have a partner
Exactly
or a
right.
succession plan. So there's so many aspects to this. And you talked about charities. People need to get that lined up if they're going to contribute to charities. And how does that beneficiary designation work? I think that's really important. It just seems like there are a lot of moving parts. People think, oh, it's simple. I'll just put my wife or kids and then I'm done. But there's a lot more to this, and you need to work with a financial advisor like yourself and an estate planning attorney. And I know you work alongside estate planning attorneys for your clients as well.
Yeah. And here's the most important part, Tony, is I put it together today, but I got to review it next year. I might have got a divorce. I might have lost maybe my beneficiary passed away. Now maybe someone with one of my beneficiaries is now disabled. Maybe we don't want, maybe we have to change things.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you just do this thing once. You got to review it just like with anything else, and make sure that's always going to be up to date. I've had people come in here, Tony, where they still had their ex-spouses set up to receive their pension, and they're remarried.
Not good.
Yeah, I mean, we recognize it, but I'm sure that wasn't a fun conversation driving home with your new spouse.
No.
Right?
Right.
So that's why it's so important to be able to update it, because again, whatever's on that beneficiary form is what matters. So, at the end of the day, we just want to make sure our clients' money goes to where they want it to. And in most cases, it's going to be to the people that they love.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the other part of it. The last thing people want to deal with if someone passes away is to deal with the financial side of it, because they're emotionally already dealing with it.
Yeah.
I know, even though your parent went through all this, for example, in the last 3 years of their life, they've been dealing with cancer or whatever type of thing, and then they finally pass away. Even though you were expecting it, and you might be relieved that it happened, I can tell you this, it still emotionally hurts.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with that. And you might be in another situation where you saw your parent today and they passed away tomorrow. And now it's a whole different emotional because it was unexpected. And the last thing you want to be dealing with is, what did they didn't do what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now we got to go through probate because why? Because they didn't do the paperwork the right way, or I didn't get the money the right, I didn't receive the money because they didn't update the beneficiary form. So it's something that, yes, you need to take care of, and you need to keep track of that on an ongoing basis as well.
Yeah, because you can create family disharmony. You can leave your loved ones in a bad situation. You don't want that for them.
You do not.
Especially when they're dealing with your passing. So get it done sooner rather than later, right, Cory?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So before we go, let our listeners know how they can set up a no-charge consultation with you and your team there.
Yeah. For listeners out there and our viewers watching us on YouTube, just give us a call here at 614-760-0670. Or you can always, go to our website at safeharboroh.com. You can also schedule a complimentary, no obligation meeting with us. We're here to help and guide you, really answer any questions you might have from a financial standpoint. We can put together a financial plan if you don't have one. If you do have one, we can be that second opinion and provide provide that second opinion just to make sure you're on the right track. So again, our phone number is 614-760-0670. And again, our website is safeharboroh.com.
All right. Thanks, Cory. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of Financially Fit Radio with our host, Cory Sickles. Thank you for listening to Financially Fit Radio. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, contact Cory Sickles at Safe Harbor Retirement Group. Call 614-760-0670 or visit their website at financiallyfitoh.com.
All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.